Hyos and HighSchool is attacked by a zombie apocalypse, and panic begins to take over. As the virus spreads at an alarming speed, it is revealed that Lee Jin-soo's father invented the virus to protect his son from bullies, but things got out of control. Later, Miss Park dies trying to save Na-yeon from an attack, while the government begins evacuating survivors from the city. Jae-Ik learns from the creator of the virus how to eradicate it via a laptop. On the other hand, the survivors, including Soju, plans to escape from the military quarantine. Soju survives and manages to swim from the island back to the mainland to rescue her daughter. Su-hyeok admits to Namra that he likes her and the pair kisses. But as Namra dives more into half-zombie state, she starts experiencing enhanced hearing, vision, smell, and strength senses. The group immediately formulate a plot to escape, but the plan is risky. They set up a foundation to block the zombies in one side of the room, using music to lure them all in. In the hope that their barrier will hold, a whole sea of zombies flood into the room. Alongside the choral singing, An-jo bashes cymbals while Dae-su screams at the top of his lungs. Jae-Ik and Ho-chul manage to make it to safety with the baby and the little girl. They come across a live streamer, beefing them to help him. Ever the Good Samaritan, Jae-Ik decides to help him while Ho-chul looks for a solution to save them both. Over at the quarantine island, Seon-moo is the man in charge. He speaks to the assemblywoman, who urges him to mobilize and try to get the kids out of the school. On Seon-moo's orders, they bring in a Black Hawk helicopter and begin surveying the area. While they do, Chol-soo happens to be up on the roof, but the doors are obviously locked. Unfortunately, the kids are stuck, and with Chol-soo refusing to open the door, they use a tarp to hold the zombies off for the time being. Unfortunately, it doesn't hold. Gui-nam soon figures out where they are and manages to come face to face with his foes. He looks at Cheong-san and gives a menacing grin. Eun-ji, who has turned into a half-zombie, is walking through the school grounds. She notices all the people who used to give her a hard time are now walking zombies. There's a faint whiff of satisfaction that comes from her walk, and she eventually starts a fire inside the offices. The fire hungrily laps across papers and desks, burning everything in its wake. That is, until the sprinklers turn on. Up on the roof, Chol-soo doesn't tell the soldiers about Cheong-san and the others, leaving them to their fate, while the students fight with zombies and Gui-nam. Namra throws him down the stairs by using her enhanced strength. Just as the soldiers all fly off, the kids manage to unlock the door, but it's too late. Up on the roof, the kids decide to make a big, bold SOS signal just in case the helicopter comes back. While they set to work, the other group of kids, including Min-jae, and the others decide to follow suit and head up to the rooftop too, working out a plan to do this while avoiding the zombies. Jae-Ik and Oran Gibberish also try to lure the zombies away so they can escape. But Ho-chul shows up on a minibus and encourages them both to jump to safety. Downstairs, Na-yeon has been stuck in the storage room for much of the season since leaving the group. Unfortunately, Gui-nam soon finds her, and after evilly telling her he's hungry, he bites her neck. Up on the roof, the group who all start talking about how they feel in their lives. Among them is Cheong-san, who opens up and reveals that he liked An-jo ever since he was 6.
Ever since I was 6 years old, I've always liked you, An-jo.
When An-jo leaves the group to get some space, Cheong-san tries to talk to her, but An-jo simply tells him to leave. Well, that's probably just as well because Gui-nam manages to climb up the outside of the roof and makes it to the rooftop. He immediately grabs An-jo, bringing Cheong-san over to try and stop him. That's just what he wanted, as he slams Cheong-san down to the ground and begins pushing his thumbs into Cheong-san's eye. Namra's strange infection kicks in again though, and using her strength, she throws Gui-nam to his doom. But he still manages to survive. Jae-jun is kept in surveillance at the quarantine center. Meanwhile, Seon-moo and the other officers aren't having much luck with finding the origins of the virus. Jae-Ik and his team come across Eun-ji, who are then taken to the quarantine zone by the soldiers. Jae-Ik reveals the news about Hyos and High, and more importantly, the laptop. The soldiers formulate a plan to bring the laptop back. Eun-ji meets Chol-soo and reveals that she wants to eat him. And unfortunately, this bit of casual murder has widespread ramifications. Back on the roof of Hyos and High, the gang receives more visitors. It's not Gui-nam this time though, but instead the helicopter showing up on the laptop retrieval mission. The kids think they're being saved, but instead they're surrounded by gun-toting soldiers. Everyone has their temperature taken, including Namra. Thankfully, the soldiers just think her low temperature as hypothermia and give her a blanket instead. After getting the laptop, the soldiers start rescuing the students, but Chol-su's murder causes Su and Mi to have doubts over this plan. He realizes the virus is mutated, and now there's no way of differentiating between those infected and those who aren't. So Seon-moo gives the orders to return without the survivors. The soldiers leave with the laptop while the kids are left on their own again. Eun-ji is held captive. Seon-moo and the others are desperate to work out what's going on with her. The virus is definitely mutated and changed into something different, at least in her. In order to figure out who is actually infected or not, the soldiers take drastic measures. Those Hyosin citizens are separated from the others, with the assemblywoman and the rabble of survivors given stricter quarantine rules. This includes Jae-Ik and Ho-chul too. It starts raining, so Cheong-san comes up with another idea. They want to use the thunder as a way of disguising their movement. Specifically, they want to head for the mountains, getting away from the urban area completely. As Cheong-san leads his group around the school, he runs straight into his zombified mom. Cheong-san starts crying after seeing her mother and unintentionally attracts the zombies. Ji-min sacrifices Hyo-ryung to the zombies, but thankfully Ha-ri is there with her group and they save the girl from a tragic fate. Altogether, the group makes it into the gymnasium, but the entire place is full with zombies. So they hide inside the storage cupboard for the night. One person left outside is Ji-min, who ends up getting infected. Back in the storage cupboard, the group makes a plan to escape. They use metal carts and sports equipment to make a barricade to protect themselves. When the group finally moves out, they try to stave off the zombies. It's a pretty bad plan because the zombies overpower the barricade. Elsewhere, Seon-moo and the others are briefed by the NIS. They deduce that in 1 week, the infection will spread to a lot of the neighboring towns and then eventually Seoul. When it hits the capital, the virus is going to cause an unprecedented level of damage. So the only solution they come up with is bombing the entire city of Hyosin. Back at the gymnasium, Jun Yoo-hong gets infected while trying to save his fellows. So he jumps out the barricade and tries to move it to the gymnasium door. Unfortunately, the door is locked, but Soju shows up just in time and rescues his daughter and the other students. Soju finally catches up with his daughter and the rest of the group. He encourages the group to head back the way he came, through the tennis courts and then to the construction site and beyond. Unfortunately, when they get there, the zombie horde has already caught up and it has surrounded them. However, Soju manages to distract the zombies to let them all escape. Soju eventually sacrifices himself to make sure the kids make it to safety. Why? Well, it turns out he's been bitten. The group reach the construction site, and after hiding from more zombies again, they find themselves on the scaffolding outside. Whereas, Gui-nam goes on the hunt for the group. Simultaneously, the officials are going to launch sound-emitting drones to target locations in a bid to lure all the zombies out into the open. Specifically to key areas, including Hyosin High, where they can launch missiles to blow them up. Up on the construction site, Nam-ra uses her inexplicable super hearing to understand what's going on from the helicopter flying overhead. In the meantime, Gui-nam shows up. He bites Cheong-san's arm, and then he's thrown off to the ground below. Cheong-san refuses to let the others succumb to his horrible fate and decides to sacrifice himself. Cheong-san hugs An-jo one last time and confronts his bully in the building site below while the others escape as planned.
I have nothing to fear. I'm not scared of you either.
This time though, Gui-nam really does gouge Cheong-san's eye out. Suddenly, the 4 main areas are blown up, including Hyosin High. The kids manage to get away, while Gui-nam and Cheong-san are both presumably killed in the ensuing inferno that follows. While the operation is a success, Seon-moo commits suicide out of regret for killing so many people. Numerous bodies line the floor, including the infected horde, and both Gui-nam and Cheong-san. These guys are definitely deceased. An-jo and the other survivors head back to the construction site to try and find Cheong-san. But Nam-ra can't smell anything and encourages An-jo to leave. It doesn't take long before Nam-ra and the others make it into town. Nam-ra senses other zombies and leads the group down the back alleys into town where all the kids decide to gear up and fight back the zombies. Woo-jin is bitten, saving Ha-ri. After slaying Woo-jin, Nam-ra uses her abilities again to convince the others to run away. Nam-ra continues to wrestle with her own dark desires though, with the voice inside her head urging Nam-ra to feed. Realizing she's hungry, Nam-ra tries to compose herself away from the group, bashing her head repeatedly and biting her wrist to stave off her cravings. Su-hyeok and An-jo notice that Nam-ra is gone, so they go back to find her. They eventually find the girl eating one of the infected deceased. Namra tries to attack Onjo, but she resists and leaves so others can't be harmed by her. Later, the survivors make it to the soldiers and are brought to the quarantine camp. Few months have passed and the martial law is lifted, but the survivors are still in quarantine camps. Onjo immediately heads over the wall in the middle of the night to pay her respects to Cheong-san and the others. Leaving snacks by a tree, she tries to move on. However, in the distance happens to be a faint flickering light, a campfire from the looks of it. Back in the quarantine camp, Onjo catches up with Su-hyeok. She reveals the news about the campfire and believes it could be Namra. She's going to go that very night, so Su-hyeok immediately decides to join her. And of course, all the other kids gear up to go too. Eventually, the gang make it down to the remnants of the school. On the roof, they find a fire burning. Namra shows up. She admits that she missed all of them, but she's not going to join them.
I've missed you guys. I've missed all of you.
Namra breaks the news that there are others like her and she's joining up with them. Could these be the others who Guinam infected? Onjo tries to keep her around, but after smiling weakly, Namra promises to stay friends and jumps off the roof, and Season 1 ends. And with that, today's recap comes to an end. We hope you enjoyed this zombie apocalyptic horror Korean recap. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. This will help us bring you more content like this. Comment down below which Korean shows recap you want us to do next. See you next time!